So now the challenge is to see how we do reframe, to see how we frame or reframe the information around foreclosure. It's serious business. We have with us this morning someone who has studied the industry, who's worked in the industry for 14 years as a community development policy research, 6 years as the managing analyst for Neighborworks America. He is now principal of Policy Lab Consulting Group. And they do key work with the city of Chicago, for example, in an effort to link delinquent borrowers and servicers and counselors. But in doing this process, we want to find out what's the real information. How do we frame the real information so we can find a way to resolve, or at least approach in an intellectual and sound way, the issue of foreclosure. Our first presenter for about a half an hour. So now get your pens out and get ready. This is good information, and by the way, some of that PowerPoint is in your folder. So look under the tab, hear his name. I bring to you the other J, J.MICHAEL. Come on up.
I always love doing Neighborworks events, but especially Neighborworks event where Jay always gets introduced. I want to thank everybody for being here today. This is an important topic. I think the fact that there's record-breaking attendance for this session says that this is an important topic. You get this important topic. So I really appreciate Neighborworks America and all the sponsors of this event, making it happen, and for you all for being here today. I'm going to try to quickly go through 3 major topics. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about the trends in foreclosure, delinquency foreclosure nationally, and lay out some statistics around foreclosure. And I think my prediction is that you'll see that foreclosure levels are rising, and my prediction is that they're going to remain elevated levels for the foreseeable future. I'm then going to show you some new research coming out of the work in Chicago, looking at how borrowers behave and helping us understand a little bit more what's going on behind these foreclosures and what people do when they get into trouble. And then finally, I'll wrap up with some important new data we have on the role of default counseling. I know there's a lot of you in the room who are counselors who work with people in foreclosure, who work with people in default. You know your work is valuable. We have a little bit of data that verifies that. Especially when that's part of a public-private partnership, as this kind of talked about earlier this morning, can be very, very powerful impact in communities. Talking back a little bit about the promise of homeownership, and I don't think I need to sell anybody in this room on the idea that homeownership is part of the American dream. It's widely valued in communities across this country. It has financial benefits, it has social benefits. Becoming a homeowner is a very empowering event. It helps people. It also helps neighborhoods. Neighborhoods with high homeownership rates then have other positive attributes, lower crime, better schools. And then finally, homeownership is a great way for people to build assets. It's a primary way that low-income minority people in this country have historically built assets is through equity in their home. The American dream is important, and in the particularly the last 10 years, we've added record numbers of new low-income and minority home buyers to the housing market. I think that's a great achievement in our society. We for so long had this great inequity in home ownership, particularly between minorities and whites. That's become somewhat more level. And that's a great achievement, and I don't want to belittle that achievement anymore today. But everything else I'm going to talk about today is about the threats to that, and how you can try to sustain the game, as the title of this conference suggested, and not lose all these new homeowners through that free marketplace. So the pitfalls of homeownership. You're going to hear a lot of terms today, so I'm going to quickly talk about some of these terms. And different folks in the field use these terms in different ways. So I'm just going to lay out a few ways I'm going to be talking about them today. First is this idea of delinquency. Delinquency is basically any time you make that payment after it's due. Usually there's some grace period, but at some point, your check was due and it didn't come. You're delinquent on your mortgage, you're delinquent on your loan. Then there's this term called default. Technically, a default is any time you violate the mortgage contract, any time you do something that is in violation of the mortgage terms. So that may or may not be delinquency. But most of the time when we talk about default, we're talking about somebody who's delinquent And usually when we talk about default, you're talking about somebody who's in serious delinquency. Maybe there's 60 days, so 2 months past due or 3 months past due. Then we get to foreclosure. Foreclosure actually is a multi-stage process. It's governed by state laws. Some states it can happen relatively quickly. Other states can take months or years. But the process usually begins with some sort of notice to the borrower, notice of delinquency, a lit pending filing in legal terms. The idea that foreclosure has an initiator started, and so we'll talk a lot today about foreclosure initiator started. Most people who get the notice of delinquency, who have the foreclosure process started, find a way to catch up. And in the majority of cases, people find a way to not go to foreclosure auction. That's where foreclosure is completed, at the auction, and the home is sold either at the auction or it's taken back into the bank's assets or the lender's assets. The term we use in the industry for this is REO, real estate owned. I'm not sure the history of that. It's not a funky term. But that basically means that the collateral that underlies that mortgage has been brought back and back into the lender's assets. It's an asset of theirs now that they have to now manage and hopefully sell and get the auction from. So these are terms we cover today, and hopefully we may not use them consistently, but we'll give you a bit of a sense of what's going on. This is a chart, a very simple chart. This is foreclosure starts over the last 20 years. And there's a couple of things to take away from this. First is even in the highest year of foreclosures, we're talking about less than 1/2 of 1% of mortgages that start foreclosure. Foreclosure is a very rare event. Now remember, there's 70 million mortgages or something like that in this country, so there's a lot of mortgages out there. So we're still talking about a lot of loans. But it's a relatively rare event. The probability of it happening to any generic person in the population is very low. The other thing to look at in this chart is the trend line. You notice through starting really in the late 80s, we started to have a rising trend in foreclosure starts. And this happened through one of the strongest economic booms that our country has seen in a long time. So we tracked this from 1986 till 2005, about a 58%. We just look at the difference, that quarter of a 1% and the 4/10 of 1% difference. That's about a 58% gain. So we have a lot more foreclosure starts happening. We had more mortgages than before, but we also had the rate of mortgages and more foreclosure starts happening. And I think this is an important trend in my sense, is even though we'll see a little bit of a decline in the last couple of years, the trend line is probably going to remain sort of up at these higher levels going forward. And we'll talk a lot about why I think that is. The key thing to understand as you think about the mortgage market is that the marketplace has really changed. Two things have changed in particular. One is that the risk distribution, how we distribute risk in the capital market, how we distribute risk in the mortgage market, has really changed. 20 years ago, we talked a lot, we were talking about loans to minority low-income people. We have a conversation about FHA, maybe VA, maybe rural housing. These are government-backed loans. There's a government guarantee behind them. Today, that market has really taken a back seat to privately originated loans without any kind of government guarantee. The same is true of loans that get some implicit support through the government-sponsored agencies, government-sponsored enterprises. Those loans, as a share of the market, are not what they used to be. So we've got a shift of the risk from government sort of backed, government implicit or explicit guarantees towards more private market. We've also got an increase in the use of adjustable rate mortgages. It used to be when I took out a loan, a fixed rate loan, if I got a loan at 5%, I could hold that for my entire loan term. If interest rates went up, it was up to the lender to figure out how to manage that risk in that portfolio. And I have no sympathy for lenders. They can figure out how to manage their interest rate risk. That's what they do. Now, can I, as an individual, monitor interest rates and figure out how to manage interest rate risks and do interest rate hedges the way a lender can? No, that's a little more challenging for me to think about. But that's what's happening in the marketplace today. More and more, that interest rate risk has been transferred to the lender onto the borrower to try to figure out how to manage it. And they manage that in a lot of different ways, whether it's refinance or different kinds of loan terms. I think they've got more borrowers in the market who have blemished credit. And we'll use lots of terms today probably to talk about borrowers with blemished credit. Subprime, borrowers who are non-prime, borrowers who have credit history problems. However you want to talk about it,